Good evening and welcome to G.R.O.W. episode number 3. G.R.O.W. stands for Get Religion on Wireless. We're here at St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church tonight, once again with Father Joseph Samaan and Father Michael Epitropoulos. I'm Tasso Kiriakes, and I don't know really why I'm here, but I'm going to talk a lot. And you're not. So thank you very much for joining us. We'd like to talk about a little bit of topic tonight that we're going to talk in the form of healing. Everybody's talking about healing. You know, Mike, more than ever, we're aware, you and I have talked about the immune system, the power of the immune system, the health of the immune system for the last 7 to 10 years ardently. Some people looked at us like we were funny when we would say something like, inflammation is the root cause of all disease. Well, tonight we're going to talk about the healing of that system and how to make it stronger. So, science has proven, beyond a shadow of doubt now, what the Bible has taught for centuries, that there's a direct connection between the health of the body and the health of the mind. In Proverbs, it says, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries the bones. There is a very distinct relationship between fear, stress, anxiety, escapism. These are all sins of the spirit. So what better group to talk to you tonight about it, about natural healing and about spiritual healing. Dr. Mike, we were talking before we started this show tonight, and we were commenting on how some ancient processes have come to light now as healing. I was on with Dr. Bleiweiss a couple nights ago from Miami, one of the foremost functional medicine people. He's an MD, and what did he talk about was strengthening the system and fighting this virus? Colloidal silver. And the role of silver as an antibacterial. You mentioned to me that silver and copper have made a big comeback now as a treatment pattern and awareness to it. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, you know, the interesting thing, Tasso, silver was discussed BC, before Christ. The historical aspects of it are very, very interesting, from the ancient Greeks to the Roman Empire to the Egyptians, and on through times, and especially during the medieval time when we had the bubonic plague. It was found that silver has always been used as powerful antimicrobial, meaning that its ability to kill bacteria and kill virus. And how appropriate for today, because now we are recognizing, in fact, before I forget, silver was even before, up till the 1930s, when antibiotics really did not exist, and they then started coming into existence in the 1930s. Silver was used was the antibiotic. But we have now this time that we see with this just incredible situation, terrible situation with coronavirus. We're beginning to recognize again the things that we have been using for years and years, and we're realizing the significance of them, and silver is just that. So when we recognize that, we also know that the body has its innate ability to heal, repair, and build. The immune system, our body's immune system, has the ability to fight whatever the invader is, and we're recognizing now that we can utilize silver, and we can utilize things from the past that have the ability, and this forms the antioxidants and the foods that we eat, and of course exercising, and things that will just activate the body's inner healing ability. And so silver is just an example of something from our past that is very significant and showing up again in this situation.
You know, I have several members that come to me and they have histories of arthritis. And almost in disbelief, they'll say, you know, my nephew or my wife bought me this copper bracelet and I put it on and I can't believe that I feel better. And this goes along the lines of copper is another one of those that's come back into the fold.
Absolutely, yes.
And we've probably known about it, and it's probably been marketed to people, but I think that we've gotten such a connection to the medical practices, the way it's been done, of diagnose, name it, blame it, prescribe it. And we look at that and we've forgotten that we're just treating symptoms. We're not treating the root cause of it. So I find it interesting, Mike, that, you know, we switch over to spiritual healing. Father, you know, of course, confession is one of the great mysteries of the church to help with spiritual healing. But we talk about communion being the medicine of the soul. And we see now an almost, some people questioning whether to take communion, some people still saying ardently, I'm going to take communion. But I find it interesting that the chalice and the wisdom of the fathers is lined with silver. The spoon the common spoon is silver. So isn't it interesting how ancient wisdom even is aware today and beneficial to us? So talk a little bit about what you have encountered as far as the concerns about hygiene and the concerns about the people taking communion at this time.
It's without any doubt that Holy Communion is the medicine, the greatest medicine of all medicines, because we in the Orthodox Church, Christians throughout history took very seriously that Holy Communion is the very same body and blood of Jesus Christ. And there is no priest or person that is in the ministry that cannot tell you countless stories about the healing power of the Holy Communion. Now you mentioned the issue with hygiene. This is a very large topic. It can exhaust us long time to discuss, but very briefly, we should mention that the concept of hygiene over the centuries or across geographical areas is not the same. We live in a culture that you are used today for your own spoon, your own plate, your own cup, your own fork. But the time my generation grew up, or when we hear about the Lord Jesus Christ with the apostles, everybody had the same plate, they dipped into the same plate, they drank from the same cup. So I think more than anything, what we have right now is some type of clash of the understanding of the practice of hygiene. So it's very hard for someone that grew under a certain type of understanding of hygiene to adjust to certain ways that comes either from different culture, different geography, or different history.
You know, it's interesting, again, that I think back probably 10, 20 years ago, you didn't see people walking around with little bottles of gelled alcohol, and every time they touched something, they would squish it and they would rub it on their hands. And there's some people that say that the infections and the use of those have weakened the ability of our immune system to come up. I'm going to break away because I know it's off topic, but Mike, tell me about that, because people are starting to augment their immune systems to the degree where they're not letting it adapt naturally. Tell us a little bit about how the immune system works and because we know that this coronavirus is a novel virus. It's one that we do not have an immune system built up to. But we will have, just like with the swine flu and just like other things that have occurred through history, we will build an immune system that will be able to reject this virus. So talk just a moment about it, and I want to come back to Father about some other stuff on our topic.
Our immune system has two responses, Tasso. One is called an innate response, where a foreign virus, for a foreign substance like this virus, the body reacts to it innately. It immediately begins to try to attack it in its best way. And then the adaptive part of their immune response is once it's reacted to the COVID-19, then it forms a memory to it, so that if it comes up again, it then will be able to attack it this time around. So that's the ability of body's ability to adapt. Exactly.
In simple terms, it creates killer cells.
It's already in a response and able to recall and say we're going to attack this now. But the problem is, you mentioned, Tasso, what's happened with the technology as you have it. We have had so much use of antibiotics, even though there's certainly a need for them, but at the same time, the unfortunate overuse of these antibiotics because of the technology and the creation of all these different antibiotics Now what's happened is the what we call the microbiome, as we spoke of the last time, the gut, the health of the gut, this balance, if you will, of the good bacteria and bad bacteria is disrupted because of the use of the antibiotic, is throwing off the body's ability to then respond. In other words, the immune system is thrown off kilter.
Right.
So now we're returning, because of the COVID-19, we're beginning to realize that hey, we've got to return down to the basics to restore our body's immune system through the gut health, as we spoke of, and restoring the balance of the good bacteria, through taking supplementation, through eating right, through exercise. We're getting back to these things in response to the awareness that's been created because of COVID-19.
Right, right. So, Father, I want to come back before we go into some other things we talked about talking about. And I want to talk about the mystery of communion, because there are certain people that there's almost a little civil war going on. Some people going, well, you know, you're not faithful enough if you don't take communion. And the other person is going, well, you're being irresponsible if you take Holy Communion. And through history, we know that we've seen as recently as the 90s what the church did, and these same questions came up again with the HIVs. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, certainly, as we said, the Holy Communion is a great sacrament. It's a great holy sacrament. Any priest will have tons of stories to tell you. I personally can tell you from my own experience, and probably write you a book from the other experiences that I heard from others. But personally, I know two people that were committed to hospice, and as the last resource, you know, being at hospice, they called me to go to serve them, and then the only different factor was giving them Holy Communion. And in both situations, these people left hospice, went back, lived a longer life for a few number of years. So the only different factor was the Holy Communion. So the Holy Communion does have this healing power. Now, when it comes to this conflict that you mentioned between people telling some people you are responsible for, you know, taking communion and spreading the disease, and addressing other people and saying you have no faith, I think both parties are faithful, but we should not penalize the experience of one person. Like when certain people have a deep experience with the Holy Communion, we should not penalize them for their deep experience. And if certain people did not have the same experience, they should not be penalized or be criticized for not having that experience. Every human being with their faith has a certain unique experience. I don't think the issue has to do with faith. I think the issue has to do more with the understanding of hygiene. You just mentioned the example that maybe the last 10, 20 years, whatever, we see people walking with all those solutions, which is something, I didn't grow up with that. It's something foreign to me. I don't, you know, I don't have the same kind of cultural basis for that, which to other people is very strange. The way you do it is strange to me. So I think the point here is it's not faith-based. It's understanding of concept of the hygiene-based. And if we bring it back to that level, I think we will have better understanding of each other when we have this conversation.
So when it comes to healing, from the standpoint of a scientific standpoint, Mike, the body has two systems for healing. It has the immune system, which you started to talk a little bit about, and people should understand that it is your belief and my belief, and now a very popular belief, that all chronic disease, whether it's arthritis, whether it's bronchitis, it is a disease of a maladaptive immune system that has responded systemically rather than locally. If we cut our finger, the immune system knows how to handle that. But when we constantly smoke or constantly put toxins into us, we fire up that immune system to where it gets hyper-responsive. And that's what starts to cause all the things like cholesterol and these types of things. So we should, and total disclosure, tell people this is what we believe from the standpoint of treatment of our clients and our patients. So that being said, there are two systems. The second one is the parasympathetic system, which is the healing system, the one that helps normalize the body. And you have said it, because when you come to me and we talk, I tell you, listen, I believe there is a spiritual component, there is a mindset component, and then there is a cellular component of healing the body. And those have to be in balance, just like all the other things we talk about have to be in balance. And so that's what we've tried to sort of integrate into what we're talking about. So let's talk about how the power to heal is actually within us at the cellular level.
That's a great point, Tasso. And Father and I, too, have talked about the number one healing is spiritual healing. And as a physician, I say to you listening tonight that if you don't have your spiritual health to begin with, the healing is not going to happen. But as Tasso referred to, the body has that ability, that innate ability, as we call it, Tasso, that it is able to, no matter what the situation, the body adapts, it heals because it has the immune system, it has the parasympathetic system. These are systems that give the body, that allow the body to be able to heal, that was, as we call, innate healing. And what Tasso referred to the fact that unfortunately we, with our lifestyle and our habits through be smoking and eating poorly and have all the stress everyone is so under so much, especially now, and all the chemicals and pesticides and herbicides in our water and on and on and on of this chemical bombardment, if you will, with all the other things I mentioned, that our body yet can and will heal. And we just have to give it an opportunity, Tasso, and that's really the beauty of the body's ability to be able to heal innately.
And there's from an exercise standpoint, from a dietary standpoint, we talked about last week, but one of the simplest is the fasting, the eating of very simple foods to simplify the process for the body. Simple exercise like movement to move your lymphatic system and help the system cleanse itself of dead cells and that. Deep breathing. If you look at a child in its bed, you see the rib cage. If you look at a great athlete, you see the rib cage from behind breathing. We, because of stress, breathe very shallowly. Shallowly? Is that a word? I don't know. But that affects us. So there is this mental connection, which we talked about at the outset, that if we have a healthy spirit, the mental health is going to come along. Father, you have to have some stories about miracles of healing. You mentioned the people in hospice, but at our core, we believe in the power of the Eucharist because it is the body and blood of Christ. He's the physician of our soul. So, do you have anything you want to talk about specifically before we sort of wrap up tonight?
Well, all the sacraments of the Church, including the Holy Communion, has those attributes, and I have one example that talks about one example that relates to the sacrament of the Holy Confession. There was one person that I had known many years ago that was could not crack a smile, and there was no reason why this person couldn't even crack a smile. And after choosing to come to confession one time, the whole demeanor of that person, the whole character changed. Whatever that person said during the confession broke the bond that was holding this person hostage inside and keeping this person depressed and sad and unhappy. And so there is a healing power in the Church, whether through the Holy Communion or the Holy Sacraments or any of the prayers or the Holy Unction. It's the matter of making that connection. So if certain people at this time they're having an issue because we don't know much about this virus or how it's transmitted, and if they're having an issue with the Holy Communion, I would say talk to your priest, but utilize also the other sacraments of the Church, including the prayers at home. And this is a great time to bring back the entity of the Church at home, where we are not able to come to the Church, but we can pray at home, and with those live streaming that we are doing on a daily basis, where people can stand in front of their icons and pray with us. If they do that, they are going to see how their system is detoxified in a spiritual manner.
And we've seen this at St. Stephen's Camp. we've seen kids that come in there, a lot of issues, a lot of problems, not happy, and parents don't recognize their kids. But you know that Thursday is a turnaround day at the camp. Because for 3 days we've been priming them, we've taken them out of society, all we want them to think about is time with God, and we get to confession, and some of them fight it, but because that core of kids that go, they get the other kids to go, and almost all the kids end up going to confession. Kids come out with tears that turn into smiles, and the reason I think they're so connected to camp is because they have a genuine, loving, unconditional relationship with every one of the other campers once they've all taken care of this issue of getting this weight off of them.
Don't you think it's interesting that in all these sessions of St. Stephen, or over all the years, Thursday seems to have the same spirit, the same results, regardless of who the counselors, the priests, or the children are. And the only common core between all those years and all those weeks and all those seasons is the confession.
Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. So, at St. Demetrius, we invite you to heal physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. There are enough services being live streamed that we invite you to attend them on your computer. And it's a unique time if you're concerned about Holy Communion and taking Holy Communion in large crowds. Think of this. Each Divine Liturgy allows 10 parishioners to come in. Call Father Joseph. Reserve a spot for you and your family. Extend your home church to St. Demetrius. Come in, sit in the pews, enjoy a liturgy where it's your own personal church for the day, and take communion with your family, the same people that you've lived with, sat with, eaten with, grown up with, and you know where they've been. So we invite you to do that. We're constantly praying for the healing of our society, this virus. We just had a beautiful service at Epitropoulos, which is a healing service that we do every Wednesday night here. And we just had that, where Father prayed for healing. And we pray for all those that have stress, that anxiety be lifted off of you. And we invite you, if you like this presentation, please share it on your Facebook. Please get your friends involved. And remember, call Father Joseph at the church and make arrangements to come for the Divine Liturgy to celebrate the Holy Eucharist and the healing power of God.
Let's also add all of us to join prayers for all those that are frontline responders.
All the nurses, the doctors, the medical people.
Because they are under a lot of stress.
God bless them.
Yes, so please remember them in your prayers as much as you can, because they need those prayers.
Yeah. So, thank you and God bless. We look forward to seeing you Friday night when our guest will be Kiriakes, president of the community, as he updates us on the things that we were doing to celebrate the wonderful Pascha holiday.